government roles. Meshawn Maddock, a former co-chair of the Michigan Republican Party, has given more than $1,800 to Trump and allied fundraising groups this campaign cycle. That's according to federal campaign finance records. Maddox is one of 16, count them, 16 fake electors in Michigan who were criminally charged by the Democratic Michigan Attorney General last summer and have pleaded not guilty. Tyler Bauer, who also pleaded not guilty for his role as a fake elector in Arizona, donated $645 this year to Trump. And it goes on and on and on and on. The Trump campaign did not respond to requests for comments. We know that several Republicans running for the U.S. House have also received donation from fake electors. Eli Crane, a Republican representative from Arizona, in 2023 received $2,900 from Jim Lamon, another fake elector who faces criminal charges. And so the audacity, y'all, the fact that you have folks who have been accused of being fake electors, some of which have pleaded guilty, some of which are still fighting it, but the fact that they continue to give to their leader, Donald Trump, and to other election deniers, the audacity of it all. In other news, you can't enjoy a good cookie without thinking about Wally Amos. I'm talking about famous Amos Cookies, Wally Amos, a showman and an entrepreneur for the ages, founder of famous Amos Cookies, died this week at the age of 88. Wally Amos, who used his aunt's recipe and a showman of self-confidence to open a shop in 1975 and launch the famous Amos brand, is a high-flying upstart that shook up the world of Chips Ahoy and other packaged cookies. He died on August 13th at his home in Honolulu. He was 88 years old. And in a celebrated melding of product and inventor, Mr. Amos was as much a part of the aura of the company as the bite-sized cookies. He built the image as the jester of the snack aisle with his playful banter, Panama hats, and wild shirts with a kazoo tucked in his pocket. By the early 1980s, famous Amos was ringing up more than $10 million in sales with the flagship chocolate chip and other varieties, which fans and many food critics agreed carried more homemade taste than many other packaged cookies. And so, our thoughts are with the family of Wally Amos. I had a chance to interview his son recently when I filled in for Tavis Smiley on the Tavis Smiley Show. And their love for humanity is intergenerational. And so Godspeed to the soul of Wally Amos. May he rest in peace. In other news, Israel has hit a wall in Gaza. That's what some U.S. officials are saying as civilian deaths continue to mount. USA Today is reporting that Israel has achieved most of its battlefield aims against Hamas in Gaza, but is unlikely to eliminate the militant movement by continuing combat operations that have cost an estimated 40,000 lives. That's both current and former U.S. officials are saying. The assessment came as a new round of Gaza ceasefire talks started in Doha just yesterday, with CIA Director William Burns joining Israeli and Egyptian spy chiefs for a closed-door negotiation. Hamas representatives did not take part. The talks are happening under the shadow of the massive Gaza death toll and looming threat of Iranian retaliation for the bombing deaths last month of top Hamas leaders in Tehran. Iranian officials have said that a Gaza ceasefire would temper their promised response to the assassination, which they blame on Israel. And so just to add to this, earlier today, I had a chance to cover a proclamation signing, which we'll talk about a little bit later, by President Biden. And before we left the Oval Office, he mentioned that there has been some movement towards a ceasefire agreement. The president told us that he didn't want to jinx the plans that are afoot, but he's a bit more optimistic than he was days ago. So let's hope that that's true, and we'll continue to follow that and bring it to you as soon as we know it. Finally, Vice President Harris is to back renters protection and ending benefits for investors snapping up homes. NBC News is reporting that the vice president's campaign today rolled out some of her housing policy proposals, including her support for efforts aimed at lowering the cost of rent and helping renters who are struggling financially. Harris proposed plans to stop data firms from driving up lease rates and plans aimed at stopping Wall Street investors from buying up and reselling homes in bulk at a higher price. As a part of the rollout, Harris will call on Congress to pass the Preventing the Algorithmic Exploitation of Rental Housing Cartels Act, a bill introduced by Senators Wyden of Oregon and Welch of Vermont. And they said that this would prevent corporate landlords from using private equity-backed price-setting tools to raise rents dramatically in communities across the country. Harris will also call on Congress to pass the Stop Predatory Investing Act, a bill introduced by Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio and several other Democratic senators. The bill is designed to stop communities from being taken advantage of by Wall Street investors and distant landlords. The bill would curtail those practices by removing key tax benefits from major investors who acquire large numbers of single-family rental homes. Harris will offer her full support for both measures, and we'll continue to keep you posted as Vice President Harris's economic plan comes into focus. When we come forward, I'll be joined with Dr. Quartey Emanuel. He is a media psychologist. He is a coach. He is a TEDx Inglewood speaker, and he is with us here today. He is going to help us sort of make sense out of the current media environment and offer some tips in managing our media diet so that we are not taking on more than we can handle. More with Dr. Quartey Emanuel when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
A gain scent bead story. Jim was at the laundromat when he heard his ear said Maraca, senor, but his nose said, hey, freshest scent ever. Following his nose, Jim found a man pouring a bottle of Gain scent beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, sir, your scent Maraca smell amazing. Actually, Jim, most noses call them Gain scent beads. Try Gain scent beads, way fresher than detergent alone.
Have you noticed the hype around retinol lately? It's all over my social media. But did you know you can get retinol in a body wash? Amazing, right? Olay Retinol Body Wash is packed with moisturizing vitamin B3 complex plus retinol to transform dry skin to visibly renewed in just 14 days. Try it the next time you shower and see the difference for yourself with Olay Retinol Body Wash for visibly renewed skin in just 14 days. And try Olay Retinol 24 Body Lotion.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Tavis is like George and Weezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black. This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Hey.
Unmute.
Doc, can you unmute?
You're listening to A More Perfect Union. I think there we have it. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and really delighted to welcome to the show Dr. Quartey Emanuel. He is a TEDx Inglewood speaker. He's also a media psychologist and a confidence coach. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But look, we're being flooded. Really, there's a surround sound effect of all sorts of media that sometimes is hard to digest. Sometimes it's not good for our mental health. There have been recent studies suggesting that the advent of social media is actually not so healthy for kids and may even be feeding the sort of epidemic of loneliness. And so I thought it very fitting for us to bring Dr. Quartey Emanuel on to orient us to some trends that he's seeing in the media that we might want to be more aware of. And so welcome to the show, Dr. Quartey.
Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here and to get into all the many facets of social media and just media in general.
Yeah. So first things first, let's set the table. Orient our leaders, learners, and listeners as to what trends you're seeing in media, particularly as it relates to Black folks, women folk, queer folks who have been the subject of a lot of mis and disinformation campaigns, who have been the subject of increasing efforts that have created some harm online and offline.
Sure. I mean, you said two of the key words right off top, right, which is misinformation and disinformation. We've been seeing this for the past several years, but there does seem to be sort of this uptick that has happened since the 2020 pandemic. There was a survey done back in 2020 about how 4% of the U.S. population admitted to gargling diluted bleach, soapy waters, disinfectants to combat COVID-19. Right. And so many of us may know where that seed got planted. But people really do sort of look for in those moments a way to confirm whatever feelings they might have. We come to social media with a lot of existing beliefs, and then social media tends to affirm those beliefs by way of misinformation and disinformation. And so that's probably the number one trend. Even as we look at the election right now, I'm seeing so many just absurd things, particularly around Vice President Kamala Harris. And people just have to start making it a daily practice, right? Maybe sometimes even an hourly practice to really check sources. The comments section is often a great sort of source to say, this might not be accurate, and then you will truly see people in the comments saying, actually, no, that's not right. And so, just the evidence, the reliability behind information, I really want to encourage people to just not take everything just as fact right off top, right? And it's a lot easier said than done, but I want to encourage us really to not be so quick to share information, whether it be to our stories, to our grids, on Instagram, or even amongst text messages to friends and family.
I mean, I totally am picking up what you're putting down. I think it's so important that we all get real clear on what ethics will govern our use of media. And I love that you brought up the text messages because, I think sometimes people will assume that just because somebody sent them a message that they have permission to share that with other people. And so, sometimes, especially with the advent of group chats, people will take a screenshot of something that was shared in that domain and share it elsewhere. I don't think that that is good form and good practice, especially if people don't know each other. But, I think you're bringing up a lot of good points and a lot of really, practical applications, of how we can govern ourselves a little bit differently with the media. We see people, for example, they will retweet and repost, without reading the article, without even looking to see is this date recent or is this from years ago, right? It's like James Brown didn't die yesterday; he died years ago, right? But some people will just sort of repost things, and so talk to us, about what sort of rules of thumb might govern the way that we present media and digest media, so that we are not perpetuating the very harms that are meant to target our communities.
Sure. So I think the first thing I often encourage people to do is, although we love our family and friends, they might not necessarily be the best fact checkers, right? So you really have to take it upon yourself. If you get sent a DM or a text message with information, before you just immediately react with sharing it, spreading that information, make it a habit to immediately check to see, is there some type of source listed? Is there some bit of information that I could literally just type into Google to see what other reliable sources might be also reporting that? Gossip sites aren't necessarily a reliable source, right? You really want to lean more into those tried and true news sources that many of us have grown up with. And even with those, don't just take that as just, okay, NBC said it, so it's fact. See what other news is ABC, is CBS, or multiple news sites reporting the same information. We really, I think, oftentimes sort of use social media passively, or think of it rather passively. But at the end of the day, we're going to it for news. We're going to it to stay connected to one another. We're going to it for new insights and information. So this notion of it just being this thing of fun and escapism really doesn't hold true anymore, right? It holds a lot more weight. And I want us to just be more cognizant of the weight that it holds in everybody's life.
Yeah, and especially just referring to it as social media. I think the social part of it, can be very misleading because we think, okay, this is fun, this is casual. To your point, are there any alarming trends that you're seeing? Tell us something that we don't know about, some of the trends that are emerging when it comes to our media consumption.
Sure. I think, particularly the bullying, the cyberbullying is certainly prevalent. And I see that probably more so amongst youth. We know that many of our youth right now are dealing with increased anxiety and depression. Some of that's coming by way of just comparison. We know, and we've said it time and time again, folks on social media are really just presenting the highlights of their life, right? We really don't honestly know what's going on behind the scenes, but youth in their, still developing minds and brains, they often will cling to the things that they see and believe them to be truth. And so I think that it's a few different things that are alarming right now. And just the fact that youth are relying so heavily on social media. I work very closely in education and youth development as well. And this is the conversation that I'm having with parents, guardians, educators, is that they're finding it difficult to bring kids out of an age that they were born into. Right. And so I often encourage parents, guardians, aunts and uncles like myself to we're their first sort of role model influence. Right. If they're seeing you on your cell phone around the clock, you're very disengaged with life and having conversations with them, they're often going to model that behavior. And so the more that they lean into social media being their all in all, we're going to continue to see a lot of negative consequences as a result of that. So my invitation is first and foremost, get very clear about, the time that you're spending on social media and who's watching you, who's observing you.
Yeah. When we come forward, more with Dr. Quartey Emanuel. He's a media psychologist, a mental health expert, and a TEDx Inglewood speaker. We're going to hear all about what he shared on that recent TEDx and more when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Tyreek Way, and here's the latest on the Black Information Network. District Court Judge Kenneth King, who is Black, has been temporarily suspended by the 36th District Court Chief Judge William McConaughey, who is also Black, for detaining 15-year-old girl who fell asleep in his courtroom this week. King scolded Eva Goodman, who is Black, from the bench and had her handcuffed and detained her in jail clothes. Usher, who is Black, is pushing back at the start of his Past, Present, Future tour date due to neck injury. In a post on Thursday, the Confession singer said he suffered an injury while rehearsing. Jackson, Mississippi residents are reacting to the abrupt resignation of Councilwoman Angelique Lee, who is Black, from the council. Jeffrey Taylor, who represents Homeowner Association presidents in Lee's ward, tells WAPT-TV he's heartbroken and disappointed in Lee's resignation and guilty plea to bribery charges. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wade on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Blindster is a family-run business that began in 2010, and we've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters and received over 100,000 five-star reviews. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NBA schedule is out for the 2024-25 season. Here's a few dates to put on your calendar. The Lakers play their regular season home opener against Minnesota on October 22nd. The Lakers are also part of the NBA's 5-game lineup on Christmas Day. They'll be at Golden State. First regular season home game for the Clippers in their new arena, the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, is October 23rd against Phoenix. Clippers owner Steve Ballmer was part of the sellout crowd Thursday night that watched a 2-hour performance by Bruno Mars in the first event at the Intuit Dome. Ballmer spent $2 billion of his own money to build the new arena for his team. Tomorrow night at 7 here on KBLA, join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds, 60 minutes of sports chatter with some flavor. You can join the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T.
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's LION to 42424.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys.
Let's take our auntie to the swap meet.
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8% plus finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
You're listening to a more perfect
race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Got a big mouth.
We're unapologetically progressive and we don't black down.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, delighted to be in conversation with Dr. Corey Emanuel, who is a TEDx Inglewood speaker. You got to tell me how that happened. And he's also a media psychologist and a mental health expert. And I've been following him on social media for a long time, and knew that we had to have him on our show to help us sort of make sense out of this media environment where I think a lot of us, are doing our best to try and keep up and make sure that, we're getting accurate information and that we're processing that information in a healthy way. And when we get too overwhelmed by it, that we develop practices that help us to ground ourselves and to center ourselves and to not live in a constant state of being overwhelmed. And so that happens to be Dr. Corey Emanuel's expertise, and we're glad that he's so generously sharing that with us today. Talk to us about the TEDx in Inglewood. What did you share with the people that you can share with us?
Yeah, so you asked how did that come about? That was something that has been on my vision board for more than a decade now. And so to finally manifest that was really a dream come true, truly. So the talk that I gave really is in perfect alignment to sort of the state of affairs that we're in right now, right? So my topic was the power of your digital legacy. And that was birthed from a study I conducted in 2020 amongst Black Twitter. And I wanted to know sort of what do Black people identify with now in terms of the American dream? Is it relevant to us? Is it even realistic? And basically what I had them do was to highlight what they aspire to the most. Is it financial success? Is it their personal image? Is it personal growth? Is it community feeling? And what I discovered more than anything that Black Americans aspire to is community feeling. And so the talk, which will drop in October, gives us really the 3 ways to go about feeling a sense of community by way of civic engagement. I think that is one of the most powerful ways I see us using social media is by way of civic engagement.
That is beautiful. That's beautiful. And just to double click, your TEDx will be available for all of us to consume in October. And so we'll have to have you back as you continue to lead up to that, and certainly after its release. But Wow, that's a powerful thought. I actually don't think I've ever really thought of my digital legacy as its own sort of standalone piece. I know I have thought, oh my goodness, what if Facebook and Instagram suddenly went under? Think about how many of our memories, our cherished memories, would go along with it. Talk to us about any tips in translating that digital legacy offline,
Sure.
so that we're not bound to strictly having a digital legacy, but we can actually build one way far beyond that.
Sure. So, one of the things I share with people, which kind of goes back to my earlier statement in terms of just rethinking echo chambers. It's important that we really assess like critically assess our beliefs, right? The things that we're coming into these social media spaces with, because if we don't, we can easily be swayed, right? The whole notion of gargling diluted bleach, that came by way of somebody saying, hey, this is a good idea, this will help you or prevent you from getting COVID-19. And we saw how quickly that misinformation and just quickly spread. I mean, roughly 10 million people participated in consuming this miracle supplement, right? Challenging our confirmation bias, right? Again, social media is going to have a way, particularly who you're following, they're going to affirm a lot of your existing beliefs. And then lastly, just fostering empathy and understanding. I think we're so quick to dehumanize people on social media. We're so quick to cancel somebody because everybody's doing it. And I encourage us to know your why. Why are you canceling, for example, Vice President Kamala Harris before she even enters into the seat of presidency? Is it based on some information that you heard from somebody, or is it based on credible facts? So it's multifaceted, right? There's no sort of one size fits all approach to this, but I think those three things in particular will certainly help us feel a greater sense of community.
Well, I certainly want to double click on fostering more counsel, not cancel culture. That's certainly what we try to do here each and every day on A More Perfect Union, is to help foster that and bringing on leaders on the front lines like yourself to help us to do that. But I want to ask you, is this sort of um, alternative facts era sort of here to stay? Is it essentially, the toothpaste is out of the tube and ain't no putting that back in? Or, might we see sort of, the MAGA fever break, where, people get back to valuing, facts and science and reason, as opposed to just sort of being hopped up on emotions and individual lived experience?
I think if as we look back throughout history, we as Black people in particular, we've always sort of been the pioneers when it comes to positive change. We can go back to the civil rights era to look at examples of that. But I honestly believe that we will always have people on the ground. Right. I saw a post from a friend yesterday on Facebook who happens to be a nurse, but she saw some fake news come across her Facebook. She listed some of the things that were red flags, and she shared that on Facebook. I then saw it and I reposted it. And I'm crazy enough to believe that if enough people continue to do that, we can break through some of the noise of the misinformation and disinformation. But there has to be somebody who's willing to, quote unquote, stand on business and say, no, this information is not accurate, and be willing to say something about it. When you see something, right, you do something. I think that has to be the trend moving forward.
That's right. See something, say something. And you mentioned Vice President Harris a moment ago. And, we know that today on social media, for example, there's an exchange on CNN's show with Abby Phillips. It's trending, where we saw author and professor Dr. Michael Eric Dyson take on Representative Mace of South Carolina, who appeared to be purposely mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name. We've seen former President Trump do the same, and other Republicans. And when called on it, they've actually pushed back and said they're not going to pronounce her name properly. This certainly hits a chord with me, having an uncommon name like Vice President Kamala Harris. But talk to us about some of the other tactics that folks employ to purposely dehumanize people and to make them into something foreign, something untoward, something unsavory.
Absolutely. So, one of the things I often talk about is just the fact that you've got to know who you are the moment your feet hit the ground each morning. We could put all the blame on social media and how it triggers us in a number of ways, but you can have that same experience on your job. You could have that same experience on the train going to work, right? So you've got to really be firm in who you are before you begin your day, right? Because if you don't, the world, social media, all these different aspects, they're going to tell you who you are, right? So the fact that they're doing that isn't shocking to me, right? We're used to that. As Black Americans in this country, we've always been disrespected, right? But we also know how to rise above that because, again, we know who we are. We know who we are individually, and we know who we are as a collective. I think what we have to be aware of are these types of tactics. They're not going to stop, right? They know that this is one of the ways to sort of knock us down a peg, right? And so I think we have to have folks, again, on the front line who push back and say, well, no, this is how you pronounce my name. This is how you pronounce her name. Same message as I was sharing with you a few minutes ago. There has to be enough people pushing back. That's the only way we sort of cut through the disrespect and the noise.
When we come forward, we're going to pick up on this point. Dr. Corey Emanuel is going to stick with us, and we're going to play for you that clip from CNN of Dr. Michael Eric Dyson really taking on Representative Mace, who flat out refused to pronounce the sitting vice president's name correct. If that's the way she feels about the vice president, I wonder how she feels about some of her constituents in South Carolina. More with Dr. Corey Emanuel when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you tired of being stuck without internet access? Connect and go with LA County Library. It's simple. Visit your local LA County Library location and borrow a hotspot for free to get Wi-Fi wherever you are.
Hey LA, today I'm here to talk to you about Grid Alternatives, which is a nonprofit in LA that focuses on renewable energy. We serve communities who have been left out of the renewable energy sector. We offer paid job training, and in 13 weeks, you can become a solar installer. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry, and once you're hired in the industry, you stop at a high, medium income. That could be $20 an hour or more. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry. Call today so you don't be left out at 323-861-0105 or gridalternatives.org, gridalternatives.org.
At Lowe's, save big every day when you buy in bulk. Save 10% when you buy 1 pallet or more of select shingles. Plus, save 10% when you buy 68 or more select OSB sheathing. And if you find a lower price in-store or online, we'll match it. Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location while supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal societal standards and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera ICANN Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICANCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICANCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
What if the conversation about menopause and bladder leaks didn't have to be a secret? Always Discreet helps you embrace this new chapter with confidence, offering a bladder leak solution that keeps you worry-free. Its rapid dry core quickly locks away even the biggest gushes with up to 0 leaks, 0 wet feel, and 0 odor. So you can jump, dance, sneeze, and laugh uninterrupted. Everyday protection for every level of leak. We've got you always. Try Always Discreet today.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga. My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up, Oscar!
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, reminding you to pick up Kamala, the Motherland, and Me, my new book. It is out there. It is available. You go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any online retailer, and there it is, an opportunity for us to challenge our assumptions about Madam Vice President, Africa, and ourselves. It was an honor and privilege to cover the Vice President in Africa and come back and share that story with each and every one of you. Today we're talking to Dr. Corey Emanuel, a media psychologist, a mental health expert, and a confidence coach. And he's helping us to not just challenge some of our assumptions around some media trends, but he's actually offering us some tips, tools, and practices to help us manage our way through this topsy-turvy media environment, remaining whole in the process. Dr. Corey, there was an exchange on CNN just yesterday with Dr. Michael Eric Dyson and Representative Mace of South Carolina. Take a listen, and we'll talk about it on the other side. And I think we were having a little issue with the sound, but essentially, Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina was not willing to pronounce Kamala Harris's name right. She said, basically, I'll pronounce whatever way I want to pronounce it. Whoa. And Dr. Michael Eric Dyson called her out on that. And you know, sometimes when people say things with a straight face, we might miss the venom behind it. And as somebody who has an uncommon name, where people have attempted to diminish and denigrate me over the years by purposely mispronouncing my name or not even being willing to pronounce it correctly, talk to us about how to manage what feels like sometimes an acceptable discourse in media that dehumanizes us, and in dehumanizing us as individuals, it dehumanizes large groups of people.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the greatest dangers of moments like this in the news is just how it can spread to the Black community and how we internalize it, right? It makes you go out into the world and potentially see yourself as less than. So we begin to get into issues of self-worth. And that's why, again, I encourage folks that, when you see something like this, it could be in a post. It could be something that comes across your timeline, that it's okay to take breaks away from social media. It's okay to unfollow accounts, right? We get to curate our own social media experience, just like we get to turn off CNN and some of these other news outlets when it's not affirming for us, right? We don't get to control who they put on as guests and things of that nature, but you can control sometimes just turning it off or being able to turn away from it. In doing so, you then will probably have to do some self-work, right? That's going to require some journaling. That might require, if you have some spiritual practices, but whatever you need to do for you to be reminded of who you are. Because again, this world is going to constantly try to tell you who you are, and you got to know who you are. And so in that particular instance, that was certainly an attack on her identity. And as you mentioned, many Black people's identity, right? Because we know how much pride we take in our name and the name that our family gives us. So again, if you find yourself in situations like that and you find yourself just not feeling good about yourself, right? Just know that it's okay to take a break and to take some time to pour into yourself and remind yourself of who you are.
That's great advice. Very sage advice. We appreciate that, Dr. Corey Emanuel. And before we go, let me finish with this. NBC News is reporting that Joe Biden is to honor her husband at the convention on Monday, an appearance that was once going to be a whole lot different. First Lady Joe Biden will have a role at the Democratic National Convention on Monday as a part of a larger tribute to her husband, President Biden, as both will appear in different capacities than planned a few weeks ago when he was still the presidential nominee for the party. It's expected to be a particularly poignant moment for the First Lady, who has often been the fiercest defender, marking a public transition for the couple after they navigated the most challenging political chapter of their lives. The First Lady has privately expressed dismay at some Democrats who were quietly supportive, but publicly did not stand up for her husband while he was weighing whether to stay in the presidential race. She now wants to ensure that his legacy of decades of public service is protected. And so, Dr. Corey, with our remaining minute, what advice would you offer First Lady Dr. Joe Biden in her attempt to humanize the president, humanize his record, and celebrate his achievement as president?
I think she's doing what most amazing wives, who are in healthy relationships should do, right, is to affirm your person, affirm your partner, right? We know that no presidents that we've ever seen have been perfect, but I think we can all stand in agreement that we've had a much better experience these past 4 years than we did the 4 years prior. And a lot of that has to do with the leadership that's in place. And so I think she should continue to affirm to her best ability her husband, her partner, because that's what you do in a healthy relationship. That's
That's what
my
you do. That's what you do in a healthy relationship. And this is what we do when we have healthy conversation, with leaders on the front line. My thanks to Dr. Corey Emanuel, media psychologist and TEDx Inglewood speaker. You guys got to look out for that TEDx speech coming up in October. But in the meantime, go to CoreyEmanuel.com for all the good stuff that the good doctor is offering. We'll have to leave it there, but we'll be sure to have Dr. Corey Emanuel back with us soon. And I've got to thank The Village helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tabitha Smiley, our sound engineer, Miles Lowe, our show producer, Robert Battles, and our podcast publishing guru, Odell Bodie. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. We'll see you next week live from Chicago all week during our KBLA Talk 1580 wall-to-wall Democratic National Convention coverage. Get some rest, and we'll see you Monday.